So yeah, after listening to this whole album, since I'm doing my twice baked stuff, and I went through all of the Tool discography, and I realized, well, geez, I haven't heard a lot, or not a lot, but probably about half a dozen to like 10 songs I haven't heard. Well, now I have. Okay, so I've gone through the discography, and I got to tell you, I think Undertow as an album is extremely underrated. And my reasoning for it is, without a doubt, Tool as a band, as a momentum, as a everything that Tool represents, really has been so pulling in so many unique things from rhythmical changes. The golden ratio. You know, I forgot the name of the Middle Eastern. It's attached to the golden ratio. I can't think of the name right now. God, what is that called, guys? Um, the it's very well known. One of the songs is for using this rhythm pattern. I can't remember. Yeah, the Fibonacci. Thank you so much. And tonal things and all the incredible things that Tool had done, through their journey with the types of music and the rhythms, everything I've already just said. I go back and I listen to this album and I go, man, but as compact and as accessible, I want to say, as Undertow is, I was like, why doesn't this have like the same inertia or power as like some of their top albums? And I guess Tool Army and the gang will be better suited to answer that question. But personally, what I found about these tracks were more raw, visceral performance, production, engineering, before more elaborate arrangements. They kind of like they were like shots over the bow of like listening to all the albums, going, oh, and then listening to this, going, oh, okay. You can see Maynard starting to creep into these very unique melodic kind of mode shifting. There's not a lot of metric weirdness going on there, syncopations and stuff, from Danny and everybody, but there's little elements of it. So what makes this, I believe, this album extremely accessible but possibly underrated is because it quite didn't unleash the super creative kraken, if you would, of what Tool has become rhythmically. That's why, to me, I think Sober and the new track that I want to listen to right now with you guys, for me, that I thought was really super badass, is this 4 Degrees track. And I was like, it's accessible, but there's those hints of like where Tool was going to go, and it's kind of funny going back. I mean, they didn't know where they were going after this album. They were just on to their next thing. But when you go back, you can kind of see, where things were starting to be creative, and I'm like, oh, okay, here's a little essence of A, B, and C. So, anyhow, so I'm just, for us, for you and I, and whatever, I'm going to let's just check out this track here, and I listened to it already, and this is 4 Degree from the album Undertow. All right. Like to give you that entrance, man. They just want to bring you in slow, swabbing the vein for the.
Inside you, like the company
love when he does that with the melody, man. Okay, so, you know, when I heard this the first time, there's what I realized is never expect to hear something that's predictable, you know, obviously from Tool. One of the things that I noticed a comment, which was it sounds like it's one note and stuff, and that there's truth to that. You know, musically, if you're not musical in that sense of pulling out the fact that, you know, there's a lot of consistency in what Tool does is they like to hover in the key of D in most cases. I don't know if this is D, but I'm gonna hedge a guess that it is. And their rhythmical arrangements hover around that, and there is a particular reason in that. I'm not going to definitely go music theory on that, or therapy. I'm sorry, music therapy on it. But the key of D has some very unique yielding vibrational properties to it. That's all I'm going to say about that. But in this particular performance, this is where I feel we were starting to see, in hindsight, after listening to the rest of the albums, these very unique moments that Maynard and the guys were going to unleash their creativity beyond, you know, what it's turned into, with these very unique rhythmical approaches also to how Maynard rhythmically writes his melodies, and as well as does stuff like he just did. This was a very kind of a darkish kind of vibe, and it got you in the grind and stuff. And then he sneaks in that one note that turns everything into a momentary pause of cool. And what I mean by that is by him dropping that note the way he did, he brought everything into what, you know, a major key vibe, and kind of gave you a quick sense of like it's almost like you're drowning, and that note that he hits pushes you above water so you can just go and then go in for the next ride. I don't know why I'm being so dramatic about it, but that's just kind of how it felt for me. Got to make a really quick note here of the engineering on the drums is absolutely sick. I'm one of these guys where, because of just all the years I've been doing what I'm doing, I really look for nuances in engineering work. And I've always said this, that when it comes to recording an album, an engineer is always a member of the band, even more so than the producer. I'm sorry I said it. Come for me in the comments. But crafting that sound from behind the console, like in this day's more console. Those days, you know, nowadays it's computer and console, whatever. But nowadays, also a lot of times there's a musician or somebody within the band that's also the engineer, and that the art of engineering, though it's still very prolific and powerful, isn't as populated, I guess, as a profession as it was pre, you know, affordability of prosumer digital audio workstations. And the drums on this are EQ'd so freaking insane, and I feel it. I can feel it in the toms. I know that might sound like well, why would you be listening to the toms? There's just something about that and the overhead settings of mics that you got to get that right for me. Even though I'm nobody as an engineer or a rock music, you know, producer, writer, or engineer, but as somebody that has just enough knowledge to be dangerous, to be able to enjoy. And all the years in the 80s when I was an engineer in the Hollywood, North Hollywood kind of run, watching all these great engineers as a second as well. Like I'd be an engineer at a studio, but as soon as real big super engineers come in, I'd hide in the corner and just be the guy in the patch bay, but I'd be just watching and learning and sponging and just going, man, that's just sick. I just had to kind of like go like this for the drums. Jesus. Hear the percussion in the back? It's like a preemptive strike of what was to come with the albums and the years of Tool releases. Nice messing around with the panning there. You know, talking about the engineering, what was really badass about that too, did I just go to elementary school? My voice just cracked. Puberty, reverse puberty. Is that even in that last section, what I love the engineer, that what the engineer did, and it sounded like with the overheads for that moment, he actually brought in a little bit of a flange or a phase shifter slightly, so you can hear the swimminess of it. And on this particular track, where they weren't afraid to do things like go hard left, mono, and then explode into this flangey stereo, and bring Maynard's signal back, raw and down the middle and stuff. And I also love there was that little hint of the tabla and stuff that Danny was doing on the side, which is really great. It was like going, oh my God, it's almost like looking at this whole body of work from Tool, going like. Not only did they stay with the core of what I believe Undertow, positioned itself in their discography, unbeknownst to them, because don't know what the trajectory is going to be like from one album to another, how famous one might get, or how it may respond, that you could see all these little, or you can hear all these little bits and pieces of what Tool had in Undertow that they were going to expand on in every direction. Arrangements and stuff like that, ambience, longer songs, his vocal capability, each one of the musicians too, exponentially growing and pushing, their abilities as musicians and composers, So anyhow, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Is Undertow one of the most underrated albums and Tool discography, and I know you guys will tell me in the comments. Yeah.